You think you're Wonder Woman or something?
Sergeant Colt Raven, 2 meters of solid muscle wrapped in army green camo, stood towering over the only female soldier among the 200 Special Forces operatives at Fort Bragg. Madison Brooks, with her blonde hair pulled back in a regulation bun and fitted gray army t-shirt, looked like a lost child in the restricted zone. Thwack, thwack, thwack. 3 consecutive punches against the sandbags echoed around the hostage rescue drill yard at 6:10 a.m. The cold morning air was thick with the sounds of brutal training, but the loudest noise wasn't coming from the sandbags. "Ready, model soldier?" Raven continued, his voice dripping with sarcasm as he looked down at the petite woman. "Or do you need someone to save you?" Madison didn't respond, her clear blue eyes staring straight ahead. Around her, mocking chuckles began rising from the other soldiers. The drill whistle had just sounded, but Raven was already charging forward, not to begin the exercise, but to teach this little girl what reality looks like. Rah! The sound of tearing fabric suddenly cut through the air. A unit patch flew off Madison's shoulder, landing on the concrete floor with a dry thud. "Let's see who can save you!" Raven roared, his challenging voice echoing across the training yard. But when the smooth white skin on her right arm was exposed through the tear from shoulder to bicep, a small tattoo, 2 black triangles overlapping each other, suddenly became visible under the early morning light. And in that moment, no one knew they had just awakened one of the most dangerous warriors Delta Force had ever trained. The morning frost clung to the concrete barriers surrounding training complex Alpha 7. Steam rose from the breath of gathered soldiers as they formed loose clusters around the drill area, some stretching, others checking equipment. The air carried the metallic scent of weapons oil and the sharp bite of autumn wind cutting across the North Carolina base. Madison stood motionless in the center of the formation, her combat boots planted shoulder-width apart in perfect military bearing. The torn sleeve revealed more than just skin. It exposed a carefully maintained physique that contradicted her seemingly delicate frame. Defined muscle lines traced down her forearm, and several small scars created a pattern that would mean nothing to most observers, but everything to the right people. "Nice tattoo there, action movie fan?" Private Wade Tucker whistled from the sidelines, earning another round of snickers from the assembled troops. Madison bent down to retrieve her fallen patch, her movements controlled and precise. As she straightened, her voice cut through the morning air with unexpected steel. "And you, are you a fan of losing teeth?" The casual threat delivered in such a calm tone sent a ripple of surprised silence through the group. Raven's confident grin faltered for just a moment before returning twice as aggressive. "Little girl's got an attitude," he said, cracking his knuckles with deliberate menace. "Let's see if she's got the skills to back it up." Madison resumed her position, spine straight, shoulders squared, the unconscious posture of someone who had spent years in formations far more demanding than this one. The subtle shift in her stance went unnoticed by most, but Major Dean Sterling, observing from the command platform, made a note on his clipboard. The drill scenario was straightforward: a 3-story mock-up building with hostages on the 2nd floor, armed tangos positioned throughout, multiple entry points requiring coordinated assault, standard Special Forces training that separated the elite from the merely competent. What wasn't standard was Raven's decision to abandon protocol before the exercise even began. Instead of waiting for the start signal, he lunged directly at Madison with the full intention of demonstrating why women didn't belong in elite military units. His hands reached for her shoulders, aiming to throw her off balance and establish dominance in front of the watching crowd. He never made contact. Madison's response was a fluid sequence of movements that seemed to defy physics. Her left hand intercepted his wrist, applying pressure to a specific nerve cluster that caused his fingers to open involuntarily. Simultaneously, she pivoted on her right foot, using his forward momentum against him, while her right hand guided his weapon into a safe downward position. The entire counterattack lasted less than 2 seconds. Raven found himself face down on the concrete, his right wrist bent at an angle that sent sharp pain shooting up his arm. Around them, the other soldiers had gone completely silent, their casual chatter replaced by shocked stares. If you're already captivated by this incredible story of hidden identity and military justice, smash that like button right now and subscribe for more unbelievable tales that will leave you speechless. And hey, if you're feeling extra generous, hit that thanks button to support our channel. It means the world to us. Now, I'm curious. Where are you watching this story from? Drop a comment and let us know what country you're tuning in from. Are you a fellow military enthusiast or just someone who loves a good underdog story? Your support keeps these amazing stories coming. Major Sterling's voice crackled over the training yard speakers. All units continue with scheduled drill. Raven, report to medical for assessment. But the exercise had already taken on a different character. The other soldiers moved with heightened awareness, stealing glances at the blonde woman who had just demonstrated combat skills that weren't part of standard infantry training. Madison secured her equipment with the kind of methodical precision that spoke of countless repetitions under extreme conditions. Her hands moved over her gear with muscle memory that had been burned in through far more than basic training. The way she checked her weapon's safety, tested the action, and verified her magazine seating. These were the movements of someone who had relied on that equipment in life-or-death situations. The building mock-up loomed ahead, its concrete walls scarred by years of training exercises. Multiple entry points offered various tactical options, from ground floor breaches to rappelling insertions from the roof. Radio chatter filled the air as different teams coordinated their approach vectors. "Alpha Team, prepare for dynamic entry on my mark," came the voice of Lieutenant Jackson Pierce through their comms. His tone carried the authority of someone accustomed to unquestioned obedience. "And Brooks, try to keep up." The condescension in his voice was unmistakable. Pierce had built his reputation on flawless execution of textbook tactics, and he wasn't about to let an unknown quantity disrupt his team's performance record. Madison's response came through the radio with characteristic brevity. "Copy." The breach began with synchronized precision. Flashbangs detonated on multiple floors, providing the confusion needed for entry teams to advance. Smoke grenades created visual cover, while teams moved through predetermined routes toward their objectives. Madison's assigned role was simple: follow Pierce's lead and provide backup as needed. Standard procedure for integrating new personnel into established teams. She had other plans. While Pierce's team advanced through the main corridor according to doctrine, Madison identified a maintenance access that would provide a more direct route to the hostage location. Her movement through the building displayed an understanding of urban warfare that went far beyond classroom instruction. She read the space like someone who had cleared real buildings under real fire. The first indication that something was different came when Pierce's team encountered unexpected resistance at a choke point. The training scenario had been designed to test their ability to adapt when primary routes became compromised. "Alpha Team, we're pinned down in Corridor 2, Pierce reported, his voice tight with frustration, requesting support. That support came from an unexpected direction. Madison had flanked the hostile position, using her alternate route, emerging behind the simulated enemy with textbook tactical precision. Her movements through the building had been ghost quiet, and her positioning demonstrated an understanding of angles and cover that impressed even the exercise controllers. The hostage rescue was completed in 1 minute and 21 seconds, a new training record. When the exercise concluded and the teams assembled for debrief, Major Sterling's first question cut straight to the heart of what everyone was thinking. "That wasn't in any manual I've read, Brooks. Where did you learn those techniques?" Madison's response was characteristically minimal. "Instinct." The word hung in the air like a challenge. Around them, the other soldiers exchanged glances that mixed respect with suspicion. Instinct didn't account for the level of skill they had just witnessed. Private Tucker, still nursing his ego from the earlier exchange, couldn't resist another attempt at undermining her credibility. "Maybe she's been watching too many action movies. Special effects can make anyone look like a hero." The comment drew a few nervous laughs, but the sound died quickly when Madison turned her full attention toward him. Her blue eyes held a coldness that seemed to drop the temperature around them by several degrees. "Movies," she repeated, her voice carrying undertones that made several soldiers take unconscious steps backward. "Would you like a demonstration of what's real versus what's entertainment?" Before Tucker could respond, the sharp blast of an air horn echoed across the training complex. The sound was followed immediately by a voice over the base-wide communication system. "Alpha Drill, all units hold position." The announcement sent a ripple of confusion through the assembled soldiers. Alpha Drill was the emergency code for unscheduled command inspection, something that typically only happened when very serious problems required immediate attention. "Command inbound," came the follow-up announcement. "All personnel maintain current positions and await further instructions." The distant sound of rotor blades began growing louder, accompanied by the distinctive whine of a Black Hawk helicopter approaching at high speed. Dust and debris began swirling around the training area as the aircraft descended toward the designated landing zone. The tactical communication device Madison secured in her gear locker featured advanced military-grade smartphone technology with satellite connectivity capabilities designed for extreme operational environments. Modern combat scenarios require ruggedized mobile devices that can withstand battlefield conditions while maintaining encrypted communication channels. Professional-grade tactical tablets with reinforced screens have become essential equipment for special operations personnel, offering real-time intelligence access and mission-critical data management in environments where standard consumer electronics would fail completely. The UH-60 Black Hawk touched down with the precision of a crew that had performed this type of insertion countless times under far more dangerous conditions. Before the rotors had fully spun down, a figure emerged from the aircraft that commanded immediate attention from every person present. The man who stepped onto the Fort Bragg training ground wore standard OD green fatigues that had seen better days, but there was nothing standard about his presence. His uniform bore no visible rank insignia, no unit patches, no identifying markers that would indicate his position in the military hierarchy. He didn't need them. The way every soldier in the area instinctively straightened their posture, the manner in which conversations died mid-sentence, the unconscious shift in body language that swept through the assembled troops, these reactions spoke to a level of authority that transcended conventional rank structure. Major Sterling approached the newcomer with the careful respect reserved for individuals whose influence extended far beyond normal command channels. "Sir, we weren't expecting—" "I know what you weren't expecting, Major," the man interrupted, his voice carrying the quiet authority of someone accustomed to having his words treated as gospel. "Where is she?" The question seemed to hang in the air with unusual weight. Sterling's eyes automatically moved toward Madison, who had maintained her position near the exercise equipment despite the disruption around her. When the commander's gaze followed Sterling's glance and settled on the young woman with the torn sleeve, something shifted in the atmosphere of the entire training area. The casual observer might have missed it, but anyone with combat experience could feel the sudden tension that seemed to electrify the space between them. The commander's eyes lingered for several long moments on the small tattoo visible through the tar in Madison's shirt. Two black triangles, overlapping in a pattern that would mean nothing to most people, but clearly held significance for him. Hold tight, because what's about to happen will completely shatter every assumption you've made so far. If you think this drill is intense now, just wait until you see what Madison is truly capable of. The revelation coming up will change everything you thought you knew about strength and identity. "Everyone except Brooks dismissed," the commander said, his voice cutting through the morning air with unmistakable finality. "Return to your scheduled activities." The order was met with immediate compliance, though several soldiers cast lingering glances toward Madison as they departed. Raven, still favoring his injured wrist, made a point of walking slowly enough to overhear whatever conversation might follow. He didn't get the chance. "That includes you, Sergeant," the commander added, without bothering to look in Raven's direction. "And I suggest you report to the medical facility for that wrist." When the training area had cleared of all personnel except Madison and the unnamed commander, the silence that settled between them carried the weight of unspoken history. They stood approximately 20 feet apart, neither moving to close the distance, both maintaining the kind of military bearing that spoke to years of professional discipline. "You shouldn't have come back," the commander said finally, his voice carrying a complex mixture of authority and what might have been paternal concern. Madison's response was delivered with the same emotional control she had maintained throughout the morning's events. "I go where the mission requires." This isn't a mission. This is a training exercise for conventional forces. Maybe that's what makes it the perfect cover. The exchange had the rhythm of a conversation that had been held before, perhaps many times, between individuals who understood each other on levels that went far beyond the current situation. The commander moved closer, his experienced eyes taking in details that would be invisible to casual observation. The way Madison held her shoulders, the positioning of her feet, the manner in which her hands remained ready, despite the apparently relaxed conversation, these were the markers of someone who had been trained to be lethal, even in moments of apparent calm. "Show me," he said quietly. It wasn't a request. Madison reached into her gear bag and withdrew what appeared to be a standard military-issue folder. The manila envelope bore no external markings, but when she opened it, the contents revealed a complexity that went far beyond routine personnel files. The first page contained a photograph of a young girl, perhaps 8 years old, wearing a miniature military uniform and standing at attention with picture-perfect posture. The child's blonde hair was pulled back in a regulation bun, and her blue eyes held the kind of serious focus that seemed unusual for her age. Beneath the photograph, a series of documents detailed training records, psychological evaluations, and performance assessments that painted a picture of exceptional capability developed over many years. The paperwork bore the letterhead of units that most soldiers had never heard of, and classification levels that indicated information far above standard security clearances. A triangle, black access, the commander read from one of the documents, his voice carrying recognition and something that might have been pride. They said you were too young when the program started. They were wrong about a lot of things. The commander closed the folder and handed it back to her, but his eyes remained fixed on the tattoo visible through her torn sleeve. The two overlapping triangles seemed to hold significance that transcended their simple geometric pattern. "How long since your last deployment?" he asked. 14 months, 16 days. The precision of her answer spoke to the kind of exact record-keeping that characterized individuals for whom time between missions was measured not in casual approximations but in precise intervals. For people in her line of work, deployment schedules were matters of life and death, not casual conversation topics. "And you chose to surface here because sometimes the best place to hide is in plain sight." The logic was sound from an operational perspective, but the commander's expression suggested he was evaluating factors beyond simple tactical considerations. When he spoke again, his voice carried the authority of someone making a command decision. "The exercise you just completed, that wasn't standard training doctrine." It wasn't a question, but Madison responded anyway. "No, sir. Your techniques showed familiarity with close-quarters combat scenarios that aren't covered in conventional military training." "Yes, sir. And the time you achieved for the hostage rescue exercise represents a new base record." I wasn't aware there was a competition. The slight edge in her response suggested that achieving records hadn't been her objective, but the commander continued his assessment with the methodical thoroughness of someone accustomed to evaluating exceptional personnel. "Major Sterling's report indicates you demonstrated advanced tactical awareness, non-standard breach procedures, and combat skills that significantly exceed normal infantry capabilities." Madison remained silent, waiting for him to reach whatever conclusion his evaluation was building toward. "Those skills aren't developed through standard military training," he continued. "They require specialized instruction, extensive field experience, and the kind of mission exposure that most soldiers never encounter." The morning sun had climbed higher during their conversation, and the shadows cast by the training equipment had shifted noticeably. Around the base, normal activities continued. Soldiers moving between buildings, vehicles traveling along designated routes, the routine sounds of a major military installation carrying on its daily operations. But in their small section of the training complex, time seemed suspended as two individuals with shared history worked through the implications of a chance encounter that might not have been quite as accidental as it appeared. "There are people looking for you," the commander said, his voice dropping to the kind of tone used for conveying classified information. "People with resources and motivation that extend beyond normal military channels." "I know. And you came here anyway?" "Sometimes the safest place is where your enemies least expect to find you." The strategy showed the kind of sophisticated thinking that characterized individuals trained in unconventional warfare, but the commander's expression suggested he wasn't entirely convinced by her reasoning. "This base processes thousands of personnel every year," he pointed out. "Eventually, someone would have recognized your capabilities." "Eventually, but not today." Today, Sergeant Raven recognized something he couldn't quite identify, which led to the demonstration that brought me here. The chain of events, when laid out in sequence, revealed a pattern that seemed too convenient to be entirely coincidental. Madison's presence at the training exercise, Raven's aggressive behavior, the resulting display of advanced combat skills, each element had contributed to a situation that forced her into visibility. "Was this always the plan?" the commander asked. Madison's response came after a pause that suggested she was choosing her words carefully. "Plans change based on available intelligence. And what intelligence suggested that revealing yourself here would advance whatever mission you're currently pursuing? You are not going to believe what happens next. This moment right here is why this story has captivated millions of viewers worldwide. The twist that's about to unfold will leave you questioning everything you think you know about hidden potential and family secrets. Military personnel like Madison often require specialized financial planning services that understand the unique challenges of active duty life and deployment schedules. Comprehensive insurance coverage designed specifically for high-risk security personnel includes protection for specialized equipment and international assignments. Investment strategies tailored for military families must account for irregular income patterns and frequent relocations while building long-term financial security through diversified portfolios and tax-advantaged retirement planning specifically designed for service members. The question hung between them as Madison considered how much she could reveal without compromising operational security. Her training had emphasized the importance of information compartmentalization, even when dealing with individuals who possessed appropriate security clearances. The intelligence suggested that certain interested parties had begun focusing their attention on this facility, she said finally. Having assets in place seemed prudent. Assets. The commander repeated the word with emphasis that suggested he was evaluating its full implications. Are you here as part of an active operation? I'm here as part of ongoing risk assessment. The careful phrasing indicated that while she might not be pursuing a specific target, her presence represented more than simple coincidence. The distinction was important from a command perspective, because it suggested coordination with higher authority rather than independent action. Risk assessment for what specific threat? Threat assessment is classified above base commander level. The response effectively ended that line of inquiry, but it also confirmed that whatever had brought her to Fort Bragg involved security concerns that extended well beyond normal military operations. The commander studied her face for several moments, clearly weighing his next course of action. When he spoke again, his tone had shifted to something that might have been described as paternal, if such emotions were permitted in their professional relationship. 14 months is a long time between deployments for someone with your capabilities. Extended downtime allows for skill development and intelligence gathering. It also allows for personal relationships to develop, connections that can become vulnerabilities. The observation touched on one of the fundamental challenges faced by individuals in highly classified roles. The isolation necessary for operational security often came at significant personal cost, creating psychological pressures that could affect decision-making and mission effectiveness. Vulnerabilities are managed through appropriate protocols, Madison responded, but something in her tone suggested the topic had touched on areas she preferred not to discuss. Protocols developed by people who have never operated under the kind of pressure you've experienced, the commander pointed out. Academic theories that may not account for real-world psychological factors. The criticism was gentle but pointed, reflecting an understanding of the gap between theoretical training and practical experience. It also suggested personal familiarity with the costs associated with extended classified operations. The protocols have proven effective, Madison maintained, though her defense lacked the conviction of her earlier responses. Have they? Or have you simply become skilled at convincing evaluators that they're effective? The question cut to the heart of a problem that plagued many long-term covert operatives: the development of presentation skills that allowed them to appear psychologically stable while concealing the true extent of mission-related stress. Before Madison could respond, the sound of approaching vehicles interrupted their conversation. A convoy of 3 black SUVs was moving toward their position, their tinted windows and unidentified license plates marking them as the kind of transportation used by agencies that preferred to remain anonymous. The commander's expression hardened as he watched the vehicles approach. Your risk assessment may have been more accurate than either of us anticipated. The lead SUV came to a stop approximately 50 feet from their position, close enough to establish presence but far enough to avoid appearing immediately threatening. The doors remained closed, but the occupants were clearly observable through the windshields. Individuals wearing dark suits and the kind of alert posture that indicated professional security training. Options? The commander asked quietly. Madison's assessment was swift and professional. 3 vehicles, probably 4 personnel per vehicle, positioned to prevent exit through main routes. Standard containment protocol. Recommendations? Depends on whether this is arrest or recruitment. The distinction was crucial from a tactical perspective. If the approaching personnel intended arrest, resistance might be necessary and potentially effective. If they were conducting recruitment, attempting to bring her back into active service, different strategies would be more appropriate. How do we determine their intentions? We wait for them to make the first move. The waiting period lasted approximately 3 minutes, during which the occupants of the SUVs remained in their vehicles while presumably conducting radio communications with their command structure. Finally, the rear door of the lead vehicle opened and a single individual stepped out. The woman who emerged was perhaps 40 years old, wearing a conservative black business suit and carrying herself with the kind of confident authority that indicated senior administrative position. Her approach toward Madison and the commander was deliberate but non-threatening, suggesting diplomatic rather than enforcement intentions. "Miss Brooks," she said when she reached speaking distance. "I'm Deputy Director Rebecca Walsh with the Department of Special Activities. We'd like to discuss a matter of mutual interest." The formal introduction and polite tone suggested recruitment rather than arrest, but Madison's posture remained ready for rapid tactical response if the situation changed. "What kind of mutual interest?" she asked. "The kind that relates to your unique capabilities and our current operational requirements." "I'm not currently available for assignment." "Actually, you are." Deputy Director Walsh produced a manila folder similar to the one Madison had shown the commander earlier. "Your extended leave status was terminated 72 hours ago. You're officially recalled to active duty as of 0600 this morning." The timing was suspicious, coinciding too precisely with her appearance at the Fort Bragg training exercise to be entirely coincidental. Someone had been tracking her location and activities with considerable precision. "On whose authority?" the commander asked. "Authority that supersedes base command," Walsh replied diplomatically. "Miss Brooks, your transportation is waiting. Please gather any personal items you'll need for an extended assignment." "Extended how long?" "Classification requirements prevent me from discussing operational details in an unsecured environment." The response was standard bureaucratic language that revealed nothing while technically answering the question. It also indicated that whatever mission they had in mind involved security levels that prohibited casual discussion. Madison looked toward the commander, seeking some indication of his assessment of the situation. His slight nod suggested compliance, but his expression carried warning undertones that indicated caution would be appropriate. 5 minutes to collect gear," she said finally. "Of course, we'll wait here." The brief exchange concluded the preliminary negotiations, but several important questions remained unresolved. The nature of the upcoming assignment, the duration of deployment, and the specific threat assessment that had prompted her recall, all of these factors would significantly impact her immediate tactical options. As she moved toward the gear storage area to collect her equipment, Madison noticed that the occupants of the other 2 SUVs had also emerged from their vehicles. 6 additional personnel, all maintaining professional alertness while avoiding overtly threatening postures. The force composition suggested they were taking her capabilities seriously, while hoping to avoid the complications that would result from active resistance. A reasonable approach from their perspective, assuming their intelligence assessments were accurate. Her gear collection was methodical and swift. Military-issue equipment that could be replaced if necessary was left behind. Personal items with operational significance were secured in a compact bag that could be carried easily during rapid movement if circumstances required. The commander approached as she completed her preparations. "Contact protocols remain active," he said quietly. "Standard emergency frequencies if you need extraction support." The offer represented a significant commitment of resources, but it also indicated his assessment that whatever mission awaited her might involve risks beyond normal operational parameters. "Understood," she replied, then added after a slight pause, "Thank you." The expression of gratitude was uncharacteristic for their professional relationship, but it acknowledged the personal concern underlying his official support. Deputy Director Walsh maintained her position near the lead SUV during Madison's preparation period, occasionally speaking into a small communication device, but otherwise projecting the patient professionalism of someone accustomed to managing complex personnel situations. When Madison returned with her gear, Walsh opened the rear door of the SUV and gestured toward the interior. "If you're ready, we have a schedule to maintain." The phrasing suggested urgency while maintaining the polite fiction that Madison had meaningful choice in the matter. Professional courtesy wrapped around operational necessity. Before entering the vehicle, Madison turned back toward the commander for what might be their final interaction for some time. "The risk assessment was accurate," she said. "Recommend elevated security protocols for base personnel." The warning was professionally delivered, but carried personal concern for the safety of individuals who had treated her with respect during her brief time at the facility. "Understood and appreciated," the commander replied. "Good hunting." The traditional farewell used by special operations personnel carried additional weight in this context, acknowledging both the dangerous nature of her upcoming assignment and his confidence in her ability to complete it successfully. Madison entered the SUV, and Walsh closed the door behind her. Through the tinted windows, she could see the commander maintaining his position as the convoy prepared to depart. His presence would ensure that any subsequent inquiries about her time at Fort Bragg would be handled through appropriate channels. The interior of the SUV was configured for secure transportation, with communication equipment and defensive measures that indicated significant financial investment in personnel protection. The quality of the arrangements suggested that whoever had arranged her recall possessed substantial resources and considered her sufficiently valuable to justify premium security measures. As the convoy departed Fort Bragg, Madison watched the training complex disappear through the rear window. The morning's exercise had accomplished its purpose, forcing her into visibility and prompting the response that brought her back into active service. Whether that outcome represented success or failure for her own objectives remained to be determined. The SUV's communications equipment activated with a soft electronic tone, and Deputy Director Walsh handed Madison a secure phone. "Your mission briefing will begin in 30 minutes. I recommend using the travel time to review your current operational status and prepare any questions about resource requirements." The professional courtesy continued, but the underlying message was clear. Her extended leave was over, and whatever came next would test all the skills that had been developed through years of classified training. As Fort Bragg faded into the distance behind them, Madison began the mental transition from cover identity back to operational readiness. The morning's events had demonstrated that her combat skills remained sharp despite the extended downtime, but missions of the type that required her specific capabilities typically involved challenges that went far beyond physical training. The secure phone in her hands represented a direct connection to command structures that operated beyond normal military channels. Whatever assignment awaited her would likely involve the kind of complex international situation that required both exceptional individual capability and extensive support resources. Through the SUV's darkened windows, she could see the North Carolina countryside rolling past as they traveled toward whatever destination had been arranged for her briefing. The familiar landscape represented the last connection to the civilian identity she had maintained during her extended leave period. By the time their journey was complete, that identity would be buried again beneath the operational persona that had been shaped through years of classified missions in locations that didn't appear on any public maps. The transformation was already beginning. The secure communication device in Deputy Director Walsh's hands chimed with an encrypted message as their convoy maintained steady speed along the interstate highway. Madison watched the North Carolina pine forests blur past through tinted windows, her mind already shifting into operational mode, despite the unresolved questions surrounding her sudden recall to active duty. "Change of plans," Walsh announced after reading the message. "We're not heading to the original briefing location." Madison's training had taught her to recognize when situations were developing beyond their initial parameters. The alteration suggested either new intelligence or complications that required immediate tactical adjustments. "New destination?" she asked. "Classified facility approximately 40 minutes from our current position. Your mission briefing will be conducted there instead of at the regional office." The upgrade to a classified facility indicated elevated security concerns. Whatever assignment awaited her had apparently grown in importance during the short time since her extraction from Fort Bragg. The landscape outside gradually transitioned from rural highway to more developed areas, then back to isolated forest land that suggested they were approaching a government installation hidden from public view. Madison noted the subtle security markers, strategically placed communication towers, access roads that disappeared into dense tree coverage, the kind of infrastructure that indicated significant federal investment in maintaining secrecy. When their convoy finally turned off the main highway, they passed through a security checkpoint that would have been invisible to casual travelers. The road beyond led through several miles of carefully maintained wilderness before revealing a complex of low-profile buildings designed to blend into the natural environment. The facility architecture spoke to serious money and serious secrecy. Multiple structures connected by covered walkways, satellite communication arrays disguised as cell towers, and the kind of perimeter security that indicated protection against threats far more sophisticated than casual trespassers. "Welcome to Station Blackwater," Walsh said as they approached the main building. "You're home for the next several hours while we finalize mission parameters." The convoy came to a stop in a parking area that accommodated vehicles ranging from standard government sedans to armored personnel carriers. The diversity of transportation suggested a facility that serviced operations spanning multiple agencies and classification levels. Madison exited the SUV and immediately began cataloging tactical details, exit routes, defensive positions, communication equipment visible through building windows. Old habits from years of classified operations, where situational awareness could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. "This way, please," Walsh gestured toward the main entrance, where two individuals in civilian clothes waited with the kind of alert posture that indicated professional security training. The interior of Station Blackwater revealed sophisticated technology housed within deliberately unremarkable surroundings. Corridors lined with reinforced concrete walls, sophisticated air filtration systems, and the electromagnetic shielding necessary for secure communications in an environment where electronic surveillance was assumed to be constant. Walsh led Madison through a series of security checkpoints, each requiring biometric verification and encrypted access codes. The process was thorough but efficient, suggesting a facility accustomed to processing high-clearance personnel under time-sensitive conditions. Their destination was a briefing room equipped with secure communication systems, digital displays capable of handling classified imagery, and seating arranged for small group conferences where life-or-death decisions were made on the basis of incomplete intelligence. "Please, have a seat." Walsh indicated a chair positioned to provide clear sight lines to all exits while maintaining optimal viewing angles for the presentation displays. "Your mission briefing will begin shortly." Madison settled into the indicated chair, noting that her position had been chosen by someone who understood the psychological comfort that tactical awareness provided to individuals with her training background. The consideration suggested either genuine professional courtesy or sophisticated manipulation techniques. 3 additional individuals entered the briefing room within minutes of her arrival. Their appearance and bearing immediately identified them as senior personnel representing different aspects of whatever operation required her involvement. The first was a man in his 50s wearing a Navy uniform with ribbons indicating extensive combat experience and the kind of bearing that suggested command authority at the highest levels. His introduction was brief and professional. "Admiral Harrison, Joint Special Operations Command. I'll be overseeing the operational aspects of your assignment." The second individual was a woman approximately 40 years old, wearing civilian clothes that couldn't quite conceal the physical conditioning and tactical awareness that marked her as field-experienced intelligence personnel. "Director Catherine Hayes, Central Intelligence Agency. I'll be handling intelligence coordination and resource allocation." The third person required no introduction because Madison recognized him immediately, despite the passage of 14 months since their last face-to-face meeting. Commander Nathan Brooks stepped into the briefing room, wearing the same unmarked fatigues he had worn at Fort Bragg, but his presence in this context carried implications that went far beyond coincidental timing. "Commander Brooks," Madison acknowledged, maintaining the professional neutrality that their operational relationship had always required. "Madison," he replied, his use of her first name introducing a personal element that seemed inappropriate for the formal briefing environment. Admiral Harrison cleared his throat, directing attention back to the official proceedings. "Let's begin with threat assessment and mission parameters." The digital displays activated with classified imagery, showing locations that Madison recognized from previous deployments. Urban environments in Southeast Asia, specifically Bangkok and surrounding metropolitan areas where she had conducted operations during her most recent active duty period. "Intelligence received within the last 72 hours indicates that personnel from your previous deployments have been compromised," Director Hayes began. "Specifically, individuals who participated in Operation Ghostwalker are being systematically targeted for elimination." The revelation sent a chill through Madison's operational awareness. Ghostwalker had been a joint task force operation involving multiple agencies and requiring the highest levels of operational security. The mission had been successful, but the nature of their work had created permanent enemies among international criminal organizations. "How many personnel affected?" Madison asked. 14 operators confirmed KIA over the past 6 weeks. 7 missing, presumed captured. 3 confirmed safe, but relocated to protective custody. The numbers represented more than abstract casualties. They were people she had worked alongside, trusted with her life, and considered the closest thing to family that her classified existence allowed. "What's my mission?" she asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. Admiral Harrison manipulated the display controls, bringing up detailed maps of Bangkok's commercial district and highlighting specific locations where intelligence suggested the targeting operation was being coordinated. Infiltration and neutralization of the hostile network responsible for the systematic elimination of Ghostwalker personnel. Primary objective is disruption of their targeting capabilities. Secondary objective is extraction of any surviving team members currently in hostile custody. The mission parameters were straightforward from a tactical perspective, but Madison's operational experience suggested complications that weren't immediately apparent in the briefing materials. "Intelligence assessment of hostile capabilities?" she asked. Director Hayes activated a secondary display showing organizational charts and capability assessments that painted a picture of sophisticated opposition with resources that rivaled government agencies. The Jade Serpent Syndicate, operating primarily from Bangkok with international connections extending throughout Southeast Asia. Estimated membership exceeds 200 active personnel, with financial resources sufficient to maintain advanced surveillance technology, military-grade weapons, and corruption networks within local government and law enforcement. Madison studied the intelligence data with growing concern. The Jade Serpent represented exactly the kind of well-funded, technically sophisticated opposition that made solo infiltration missions extremely dangerous. Recommended team composition for this type of operation would be minimum 8 operators with full support infrastructure, she pointed out. "Are we deploying with appropriate force levels?" The question was met with uncomfortable silence that suggested the answer wouldn't align with standard operational doctrine. "Resource constraints require a more economical approach," Admiral Harrison said carefully. "Current geopolitical considerations prevent official military involvement in Thailand. This mission requires plausible deniability and minimal footprint." Madison understood the euphemistic language. They were asking her to conduct a solo infiltration against overwhelming odds with minimal support, in a country where capture would mean disavowal by her own government. "Suicide mission," she stated flatly. "High-risk assignment with extraordinary importance to national security," Admiral Harrison corrected. "Your unique qualifications make you the optimal choice for this type of operation. Hold tight, because what's about to happen will completely shatter every assumption you've made so far. If you think this drill is intense now, just wait until you see what Madison is truly capable of. The revelation coming up will change everything you thought you knew about strength and identity." The praise felt hollow given the circumstances, but Madison's training had prepared her for missions where survival depended more on individual capability than operational support. Her concern wasn't about personal risk. It was about the feasibility of achieving mission objectives against such overwhelming opposition. "Timeline?" she asked. "Wheels up in 6 hours. Insertion via commercial flight to maintain cover identity. Local assets will provide equipment and intelligence updates, but operational execution is entirely your responsibility." Director Hayes activated additional displays showing cover documentation, financial resources, and communication protocols that would support her mission. The preparation was thorough, suggesting weeks or months of advanced planning rather than the hasty response to recent intelligence that they had initially described. "This mission was planned before the recent casualties," Madison observed. "The threat to Ghostwalker personnel was anticipated." The statement hung in the air as the briefing participants exchanged glances that confirmed her suspicion. The entire situation had been orchestrated as justification for an operation that served purposes beyond simply protecting former team members. "Intelligence operations require long-term planning," Director Hayes said diplomatically. "Recent events have simply provided the operational justification for activities that were already under consideration." Madison turned her attention to Commander Brooks, who had remained silent throughout most of the briefing. His presence suggested involvement that went beyond simple operational oversight. "What's your role in this?" she asked directly. Before he could respond, Admiral Harrison interrupted with information that shifted the entire context of the briefing. "Commander Brooks will be providing mission support from a forward operating base in northern Thailand. His unit has been conducting training exercises in the region, which provides cover for intelligence gathering operations that will support your mission." The revelation that Brooks would be in-country during her mission created operational complications that hadn't been mentioned in the initial briefing parameters. His proximity could provide valuable backup support, but it also introduced personal dynamics that might compromise her decision-making during critical moments. "Does this arrangement present any conflicts of interest?" Director Hayes asked, her question directed toward both Madison and Commander Brooks. Madison's operational training emphasized the importance of mission compartmentalization, but her personal history with Brooks created exactly the kind of emotional vulnerability that could affect operational judgment. "Professional standards will be maintained," she said, though she wasn't entirely certain she believed her own assurance. Commander Brooks's response was equally professional, but carried undertones that suggested the same concerns. "Mission objectives take priority over all other considerations." Admiral Harrison seemed satisfied with their responses, but Director Hayes continued to study their interaction with the analytical focus of someone trained to identify psychological factors that might affect mission success. "Excellent. Then we can proceed with final mission preparation." The briefing room displays shifted to detailed satellite imagery of Bangkok, showing the urban environment where Madison would be conducting her infiltration. The complexity of the target area was immediately apparent. Dense urban development, multiple escape routes, and the kind of civilian population density that would make any violent confrontation extremely complicated. "Primary target is this facility." Admiral Harrison indicated a building in Bangkok's financial district that appeared to be a legitimate commercial office complex. "Intelligence suggests the Jade Serpent uses the 15th floor as their operational headquarters, with security measures that include electronic surveillance, armed personnel, and backup communication systems." Madison studied the building layout, noting architectural features that would affect infiltration planning. Multiple access points, but all heavily monitored. Elevator systems that could be controlled remotely. Emergency stairwells that provided alternate routes, but limited tactical options. "Backup facilities?" she asked. "2 confirmed secondary locations, here and here." Director Hayes highlighted additional buildings that formed a triangle with the primary target. "Standard protocol would be to hit all 3 simultaneously to prevent operational migration, but resource constraints limit us to sequential targeting." The tactical situation was becoming clearer, and it confirmed Madison's assessment that this mission pushed the boundaries of what could reasonably be accomplished by a single operator. Success would require not just exceptional skill, but considerable luck. "Intelligence on current Ghostwalker personnel locations?" 3 confirmed prisoners being held at the primary facility. 2 additional personnel possibly being held at secondary locations, but intelligence is incomplete. Madison absorbed the information while considering the tactical implications. Rescue operations were among the most complicated military activities, requiring precise coordination and overwhelming force to succeed against prepared opposition. Attempting such rescues as part of a solo infiltration mission represented an extraordinary challenge. Extraction support. Local assets will provide transportation to departure points, but extraction is ultimately your responsibility. Commercial flights under cover identity with backup evacuation routes if primary departure becomes compromised. The briefing continued for another hour, covering communication protocols, emergency procedures, and contingency planning for various failure scenarios. The level of detail was impressive, but Madison couldn't shake the feeling that critical information was being withheld. When the formal briefing concluded, the participants began leaving the room until only Madison, Commander Brooks, and Director Hayes remained. The shift in atmosphere suggested a transition to discussion topics that required higher security clearance than the general mission briefing. "There are aspects of this mission that weren't covered in the general briefing," Director Hayes began. "Information that requires additional compartmentalization due to its sensitive nature." Madison waited for the revelation, though her operational experience suggested it would involve complications that made an already dangerous mission even more challenging. "The Jade Serpent operation isn't simply about eliminating Ghostwalker personnel," Commander Brooks said. "They're attempting to reconstruct the operational details of specific missions that involve technology and techniques that remain highly classified." The implication was clear. The syndicate wasn't just seeking revenge against individual operators, but was attempting to acquire intelligence that could compromise ongoing national security operations. "What specific information are they after?" Madison asked. Director Hayes activated a secure terminal and displayed classified documents that Madison recognized from her previous deployments. Technical specifications, operational procedures, and intelligence analysis that represented years of development work by the most advanced military research programs. Project Nightfall, the advanced surveillance and infiltration techniques that made Ghostwalker operations so effective. If this technology reaches hostile governments or international criminal organizations, it could compromise decades of intelligence operations worldwide. Madison studied the displayed information, remembering the classified equipment and techniques that had given her team decisive advantages during their most dangerous missions. The technology represented a significant advancement in special operations capability, and its compromise would indeed have far-reaching consequences. Are we certain the Jade Serpent has acquired this information? We're certain they're trying. The systematic targeting of Ghostwalker personnel suggests an organized effort to extract operational details from individuals who participated in Nightfall operations. The strategic picture was becoming clearer, but it also highlighted the enormous stakes involved in her mission. This wasn't simply about rescuing former teammates. It was about preventing a security breach that could affect national security for years to come. Additional mission objectives? Madison asked. Confirm the extent of information compromise, eliminate any Jade Serpent personnel who have accessed classified material, and recover or destroy any Nightfall-related technology or documentation that may have been acquired. The expanded mission parameters transformed what had already been an extremely dangerous assignment into something that bordered on impossible. She would need to infiltrate a sophisticated criminal organization, rescue captured personnel, and conduct damage assessment on highly classified material, all while operating without official support in a foreign country. Timeline for mission completion? 48 hours maximum. Intelligence suggests the Jade Serpent is preparing to transfer acquired information to international buyers. If we don't disrupt their operation within that time frame, the security compromise becomes irreversible. Madison considered the tactical challenges involved in executing such a complex mission within such a compressed timeline. Every element would need to be executed flawlessly, with no margin for error or operational delays. What happens if the mission fails? Director Hayes and Commander Brooks exchanged glances that suggested they had already considered this possibility extensively. Failure isn't an option, Director Hayes said. The consequences of security compromise would be too severe to accept. Alternative measures would be implemented to prevent information transfer. Madison understood the euphemistic language. If her mission failed, they would resort to methods that might include actions she wouldn't approve of, potentially endangering innocent civilians or creating international incidents. Understood, she said, though the weight of responsibility was becoming almost overwhelming. Military personnel like Madison often require specialized financial planning services that understand the unique challenges of active duty life and deployment schedules. Comprehensive insurance coverage designed specifically for high-risk security personnel includes protection for specialized equipment and international assignments. Investment strategies tailored for military families must account for irregular income patterns and frequent relocations while building long-term financial security through diversified portfolios and tax-advantaged retirement planning specifically designed for service members. The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of a technical specialist carrying a sealed case that presumably contained mission-specific equipment. The individual was introduced simply as technical support without further identification, suggesting security protocols that limited personal information sharing. Specialized equipment for your mission, the specialist explained, while opening the case to reveal technology that Madison didn't immediately recognize. Advanced communication devices, surveillance equipment, and defensive tools designed specifically for high-risk infiltration operations. The equipment represented the kind of cutting-edge technology that was typically reserved for the most sensitive operations. Its availability suggested that resources were being allocated at levels consistent with mission importance, despite the constraints on personnel support. Madison examined each piece of equipment while receiving detailed operational briefings on its capabilities and limitations. Communication devices with encryption that could penetrate most hostile surveillance networks. Surveillance tools that could gather intelligence without detection by standard security systems. Defensive equipment that provided protection while maintaining the appearance of civilian clothing. Integration with local assets, she asked. Minimal. Contact protocols for emergency situations only. Primary operational execution remains your independent responsibility. The isolation was both advantageous and concerning. Independent operation provided maximum operational flexibility, but it also meant that support would be unavailable if circumstances developed beyond her individual capabilities. Any questions regarding equipment operation or mission parameters? The technical specialist asked. Madison had dozens of questions, but most related to strategic considerations that weren't within the specialist's area of responsibility. The technical aspects of the mission were well planned and professionally supported. Her concerns related to the broader implications of conducting such a complex operation with such limited backup. Equipment appears comprehensive. Thank you. The specialist departed, leaving Madison alone with Director Hayes and Commander Brooks for what she suspected would be the final phase of mission briefing. The atmosphere in the room had grown increasingly tense as the full scope of mission requirements became apparent. Personal considerations, Director Hayes said carefully. This mission involves significant risk to your personal safety, with limited support for emergency situations. Are there any personal arrangements that need to be addressed before deployment? The question touched on one of the harsh realities of classified operations, the need to prepare for the possibility that operators might not return from assignments. Madison had long ago accepted that her career path involved accepting such risks, but the current mission pushed those risks to levels that demanded serious consideration. Standard protocols apply, she said, referring to procedures that would handle personal affairs and next-of-kin notification in the event of mission failure. Actually, Commander Brooks interrupted, there may be additional considerations that haven't been addressed. Madison looked at him sharply, uncertain what personal arrangements he might be referring to that weren't already covered by standard military procedures. What additional considerations? Instead of answering directly, Commander Brooks activated a different section of the briefing room's display system, the screen filled with classified personnel files that Madison recognized as her own service record, but with sections that she had never seen before. Your operational history includes information that was compartmentalized even from you, he explained. Family background, personal relationships, and security clearances that were classified above your previous access level. The revelation was deeply unsettling. Madison's understanding of her own background was apparently incomplete, with classified information that had been withheld even from her direct knowledge. What kind of information? She asked, though part of her wasn't certain she wanted to know the answer. Director Hayes took over the explanation, her voice carrying the careful neutrality of someone delivering information that would be personally difficult to receive. Your recruitment into classified operations wasn't entirely based on demonstrated capability during standard military training. It was also based on family connections and genetic factors that suggested exceptional suitability for special operations work. Madison felt a cold certainty forming in her stomach as she began to understand the implications of what they were revealing. Family connections to whom? Commander Brooks answered the question, his voice carrying emotions that seemed inappropriate for a professional briefing environment. To me. You're my daughter, Madison. Your recruitment, training, and operational assignments have all been influenced by capabilities that we believed you inherited through family lineage. The statement hit Madison like a physical blow. Her understanding of her own identity, her relationship with Commander Brooks, and the nature of her entire military career shifted fundamentally in the space of a few seconds. That's impossible, she said, though even as she spoke, she was remembering countless small details that suddenly made sense in this new context. Your mother was Captain Sarah Mitchell, Delta Force Communications Specialist. She was killed during a classified operation when you were 6 years old. I've been monitoring your career development ever since, waiting for the right moment to bring you into operations that required our combined capabilities. Madison's memories of her childhood were fragmentary, partly because of the trauma associated with her mother's death, and partly because of security protocols that had required multiple relocations and identity changes during her early years. But the name Sarah Mitchell triggered recognition of half-remembered faces and emotional connections that confirmed the truth of what she was being told. Why wasn't I told this before? Security protocols. Your relationship to me created potential vulnerabilities that needed to be carefully managed. It was deemed safer for both of us if you remained unaware of the family connection until operational circumstances required full disclosure. Director Hayes stepped in to provide additional context. The decision to reveal this information now is based on mission requirements. Your upcoming assignment in Bangkok may require coordination with Commander Brooks's unit that would be impossible to maintain if you remained unaware of your relationship. Madison struggled to process the emotional impact of learning that her entire understanding of her personal history had been carefully constructed to conceal the truth. The professional relationships she had maintained, the operational assignments she had received, even her presence at Fort Bragg, all of it had been influenced by family connections she hadn't known existed. The tattoo, she said suddenly, understanding flooding through her awareness. The two triangles, that's a family marking. Commander Brooks nodded. Delta Force family identification. Your mother had the same tattoo. It's recognition of bloodline service at the highest classification levels. The pieces of her identity were reorganizing themselves around this new information. Her exceptional combat capabilities, her intuitive understanding of complex tactical situations, her ability to function effectively under extreme psychological pressure, all of these traits that had shaped her military career could be partially explained by genetic predisposition combined with environmental conditioning. How does this affect my mission? She asked, struggling to maintain professional focus despite the emotional upheaval. It provides additional resources, Director Hayes explained. Commander Brooks's unit will be operating in northern Thailand during your mission timeline. If circumstances require extraction support or emergency backup, family connections provide justification for resource allocation that wouldn't otherwise be available. Madison looked at Commander Brooks, her father, trying to reconcile this new understanding with the professional relationship they had maintained for years. His concern about the mission's risks took on new dimensions when viewed through the lens of parental protective instincts rather than simple military leadership. Does this change operational parameters? She asked. No, Commander Brooks replied firmly. Mission objectives remain the same. But if you encounter situations that exceed your individual capabilities, extraction support will be available through channels that provide higher probability of success. The assurance was both comforting and concerning. Parental concern might lead to protective measures that compromised mission effectiveness, but it also meant that extraordinary efforts would be made to ensure her survival if circumstances became desperate. You are not going to believe what happens next. This moment right here is why this story has captivated millions of viewers worldwide. The twist that's about to unfold will leave you questioning everything you think you know about hidden potential and family secrets. Any other family secrets that might affect this mission? Madison asked, her tone carrying an edge that reflected her frustration with the compartmentalized revelation of her own background. Director Hayes consulted classified files before responding. Your operational capabilities may exceed our previous assessments. Genetic analysis suggests potential for enhanced performance under extreme stress conditions that we haven't fully tested. Madison wasn't sure whether to be reassured or concerned by the suggestion that her capabilities might be greater than she realized. Enhanced performance could be advantageous during challenging missions, but unknown capabilities also introduced unpredictable variables that could complicate tactical planning. What kind of enhanced performance? Accelerated decision-making under pressure, improved physical coordination during combat situations, and enhanced pattern recognition for complex tactical environments. Capabilities that appear to be hereditary and activated by specific stress conditions. The description sounded more like science fiction than military briefing, but Madison's operational experience had included moments of almost supernatural awareness and capability that might be explained by the genetic factors they were describing. Has this been tested? Limited field observation during your previous deployments. Combat performance that exceeded predicted parameters based on training and experience alone. This mission may provide opportunities for more comprehensive assessment. Madison realized that she was being used as much for research purposes as for operational objectives. Her mission to Bangkok would test not just her training and experience, but also theoretical capabilities that weren't fully understood by the people sending her into danger. Are there risks associated with these enhanced capabilities? Director Hayes and Commander Brooks exchanged glances that suggested this question had been discussed extensively during mission planning. Unknown physiological stress from enhanced performance modes. Potential psychological effects from accessing capabilities that exceed normal human parameters. Recovery time requirements that might affect sustained operations. Madison absorbed this information while considering its implications for mission planning. If enhanced capabilities required significant recovery periods, their activation during critical mission phases could create dangerous vulnerabilities. Recommendations for managing these factors? Conservative activation until you understand the personal costs involved. Enhanced capabilities should be reserved for situations where normal operational methods are insufficient for mission success. The briefing was entering territory that felt more like experimental psychology than military operation planning. Madison's discomfort with being treated as a test subject was growing, but her commitment to mission success and team member rescue remained paramount. Mission timeline remains unchanged, she asked. Wheels up in 4 hours, final equipment check and mission review, then transportation to departure airport. Madison stood up from the briefing table, her mind already shifting toward the practical aspects of mission preparation. Personal revelations would need to be processed later. Immediate focus needed to be on the tactical challenges of infiltrating a sophisticated criminal organization and rescuing captured team members. I'll need time to review mission materials and prepare equipment. Of course, you'll be escorted to preparation facilities where you can review all mission documentation and configure your equipment loadout. As Madison moved towards the briefing room exit, Commander Brooks, her father, approached with what was clearly a personal rather than professional communication. Madison, he said quietly, I know this information creates complications for your emotional preparation, but I want you to know that your mother would be proud of the operator you've become. The personal comment threatened to overwhelm her professional composure, but Madison managed a brief nod of acknowledgement before continuing toward the door. Personal emotions would need to wait until after mission completion, assuming she survived to process them. The preparation facilities at Station Blackwater were equipped with everything necessary for mission planning and equipment configuration. Secure workstations for reviewing classified materials, specialized tools for configuring technical equipment, and communication systems for final coordination with support personnel. Madison spent the next 3 hours immersed in tactical planning, studying every available detail about the Jade Serpent organization, Bangkok's urban environment, and the specific challenges of conducting a solo infiltration against overwhelming opposition. The mission would require perfect execution of every tactical element, with no margin for error. Her equipment loadout was carefully balanced between capability and concealment. Advanced surveillance devices that appeared to be standard tourist electronics, communication equipment disguised as commercial smartphones, defensive tools that could pass casual inspection while providing protection during combat situations. The most challenging aspect of mission preparation was developing contingency plans for the rescue operations. 3 confirmed prisoners at the primary facility, with possible additional personnel at secondary locations. Each rescue would require different tactical approaches, and the time constraints meant that detailed reconnaissance would be impossible. As departure time approached, Madison conducted final equipment checks and reviewed emergency communication protocols. The mission would begin with a commercial flight to Bangkok under civilian cover identity, followed by immediate transition to operational status upon arrival. Director Hayes arrived for final mission authorization as Madison completed her preparation activities. Transport to departure airport leaves in 30 minutes. Any final questions or concerns? Madison had concerns about every aspect of the mission, but voicing them wouldn't change the tactical realities she would face in Bangkok. Mission parameters are clear. Authorization confirmed. Excellent. Safe travels and good hunting. Commander Brooks arrived as Director Hayes was leaving, creating a moment of private conversation between father and daughter that had been impossible during the formal briefing process. Madison, I need you to understand something that wasn't covered in the official briefing. She waited for whatever additional complication he was about to reveal. Your enhanced capabilities, they're not theoretical, they're real, and they've been documented during previous operations. But they come with costs that we don't fully understand. Madison felt a chill of apprehension. What kind of costs? Psychological effects that can persist for weeks after activation, physical exhaustion that requires extended recovery periods, and emotional detachment that can affect personal relationships permanently. The warning suggested that using her enhanced capabilities might fundamentally change her as a person, with consequences that could outlast any individual mission. Are you advising against their use? I'm advising caution. Use them only when absolutely necessary for mission success or personal survival. And remember that you're not just an operator, "You're my daughter, and I want you to come home safely." The personal plea from her father added emotional complexity to an already challenging mission, but it also provided motivation that went beyond professional duty. "I'll be careful," she promised, though they both knew that careful operation might not be sufficient for mission success against the opposition she would face. "Transport is ready," an escort announced from the preparation room entrance. Madison secured her equipment and moved toward the exit, where Commander Brooks was waiting for what might be their final conversation for some time. "Contact frequencies remain open," he said. "Emergency extraction protocols are active, and Madison, trust your instincts. They've kept you alive this long." The advice was both professional and personal, reflecting his dual role as military commander and concerned father. Madison departed Station Blackwater with mixed emotions about the revelations of the past several hours, but with clear focus on the mission ahead. The drive to the airport would provide time for mental preparation, and the flight to Bangkok would allow final review of operational plans. But as their vehicle departed the classified facility, Madison couldn't shake the feeling that the most dangerous aspects of her mission weren't the ones that had been covered in the official briefing. The commercial flight to Bangkok provided 14 hours for Madison to complete her psychological transition from family revelations to operational readiness. She spent the time reviewing every detail of intelligence about the Jade Serpent organization, studying satellite imagery of Bangkok's urban environment, and in mentally rehearsing tactical approaches for each aspect of her mission. Her cover identity was solidly constructed, a freelance photographer documenting Southeast Asian urban development. The profession provided justification for sophisticated camera equipment that concealed surveillance devices, along with reasons for visiting various locations throughout Bangkok without attracting attention. Upon arrival at Suvarnabhumi Airport, Madison moved through customs and immigration with the casual efficiency of an experienced traveler. Her equipment passed inspection without difficulty, and her cover documentation withstood routine scrutiny. Within 2 hours of landing, she was established in a hotel in Bangkok's central business district, less than 3 kilometers from the Jade Serpent's primary facility. Advanced tactical training programs offer specialized certification courses for security professionals seeking elite-level qualifications in high-risk operational environments. Military legal consultation services provide essential support for service members navigating complex regulations and career advancement opportunities. Professional development education, designed specifically for defense contractors and government personnel, includes online learning platforms with flexible scheduling to accommodate demanding operational requirements and deployment schedules. The Bangkok skyline visible from her hotel window represented both opportunity and challenge. Dense urban development provided multiple infiltration routes and escape options, but it also created complex environments where hostile surveillance could operate without detection. The Jade Serpent's integration into the local business community meant that distinguishing between legitimate commercial activity and criminal operations would require careful observation. Madison's first priority was establishing surveillance of the primary target facility. The 15-story office building in Bangkok's financial district appeared to be a legitimate commercial complex, with multiple businesses occupying different floors and normal patterns of daily activity that would provide cover for infiltration operations. Using advanced surveillance equipment disguised as tourist photography gear, Madison spent the remainder of her first day documenting security measures, personnel patterns, and tactical features of the target building. The Jade Serpent's operational security was sophisticated, but not impenetrable, rotating guard schedules, electronic surveillance systems, and access controls that could be bypassed with appropriate preparation. By evening, Madison had identified several potential infiltration routes and confirmed the location of the 15th floor facilities where intelligence suggested the captured Ghostwalker personnel were being held. The tactical challenge would be reaching that floor without alerting security systems or hostile personnel. Her communication check with operational support confirmed that Commander Brooks's unit had established their forward operating base in northern Thailand, providing backup extraction capabilities if emergency support became necessary. The knowledge that help was available, even at significant distance, provided psychological comfort during her isolated operation. Madison's infiltration began at 0200 hours, during the period of minimal building activity when security personnel would be least alert. Her approach utilized service access routes that avoided primary surveillance coverage while providing access to building systems necessary for reaching upper floors. The building's security measures were sophisticated, but designed primarily to deter casual intrusion rather than train special operations personnel. Electronic locks yielded to specialized equipment, surveillance cameras were bypassed using blind spot analysis, and motion sensors were avoided through careful movement timing. Madison reached the 15th floor without triggering security alerts, but immediately encountered evidence that her mission was more complicated than anticipated. The floor layout didn't match architectural plans provided during mission briefing, suggesting recent modifications that indicated sophisticated operational security measures. More concerning was the discovery that the Jade Serpent's security measures included personnel who appeared to have military training equivalent to her own. Guard positions, patrol patterns, and communication procedures demonstrated professional expertise that would make infiltration and extraction significantly more challenging. Madison's surveillance of the 15th floor revealed holding areas where personnel were being detained under conditions that suggested interrogation rather than simple imprisonment. Sound equipment allowed her to confirm that at least 2 of the captured individuals were former Ghostwalker team members, but their physical condition indicated they had been subjected to enhanced interrogation techniques. The discovery added urgency to her rescue mission while complicating the tactical requirements. Injured prisoners would require medical attention and physical assistance during extraction, factors that would slow movement and increase vulnerability during egress operations. Madison's communication with operational support included requests for medical evacuation capabilities and extended extraction support, but the responses indicated limited resources available for emergency assistance. Her mission was becoming increasingly isolated as circumstances developed beyond initial planning parameters. The first rescue attempt focused on the prisoner nearest to potential exit routes. Madison's approach to the holding area utilized specialized equipment to disable electronic surveillance and create temporary communication blackouts that would provide operational windows for prisoner extraction. Contact with Sergeant Michael Torres, former Ghostwalker communications specialist, confirmed that the Jade Serpent had been conducting systematic interrogation focused on Project Nightfall operational procedures. The information compromise was more extensive than initially feared, with detailed technical specifications already extracted and prepared for transfer to international buyers. Torres's physical condition was stable, but showed signs of prolonged stress and possible injury that would affect his mobility during extraction operations. Madison administered emergency medical treatment while preparing for egress, but their movement would be significantly slower than optimal. The extraction of Torres was complicated by unexpected changes in guard patrol schedules that forced Madison to adapt her egress route in real time. Her enhanced situational awareness allowed her to identify alternative routes that avoided hostile contact, but the delays consumed time that she couldn't afford given her mission timeline. Successful extraction of Torres to a safehouse location provided confirmation of intelligence compromise while revealing additional complications. The Jade Serpent had acquired not just operational procedures, but also personal information about Ghostwalker team members that was being used to target their families and associates. Madison's second infiltration focused on the remaining confirmed prisoners, but surveillance revealed that security measures had been upgraded in response to Torres' disappearance. Additional personnel, modified patrol patterns, and enhanced electronic surveillance created tactical challenges that required completely revised approaches. The rescue of Captain Lisa Wong, former Ghostwalker tactical specialist, required Madison to utilize her enhanced capabilities for the first time during the mission. Accelerated decision-making allowed her to navigate changing security conditions in real time, while improved physical coordination enabled silent movement through areas where normal infiltration would have been impossible. Wong's extraction was successful, but confirmed Madison's father's warnings about enhanced capability costs. The psychological effects were immediate and disorienting: heightened awareness that bordered on sensory overload, physical exhaustion that seemed disproportionate to the actual energy expended, and emotional detachment that made it difficult to maintain empathy for the rescued personnel. The third confirmed prisoner, Lieutenant David Chen, was being held under maximum security conditions that required Madison to plan an infiltration approach that would be practically impossible using conventional special operations techniques. The tactical requirements pushed her enhanced capabilities to levels that created serious concerns about her ability to function effectively during subsequent mission phases. Madison's infiltration to reach Chen required sustained use of enhanced performance modes that allowed her to operate beyond normal human limitations. Movement through heavily monitored areas, bypassing sophisticated security systems, and neutralizing hostile personnel without raising alarms, all accomplished through capabilities that felt increasingly unnatural and psychologically costly. Chen's rescue was successful, but the accumulated effects of enhanced capability usage were becoming seriously problematic. Madison found herself operating in a state of heightened awareness that was beginning to feel disconnected from normal reality, with physical coordination that was unnaturally precise and decision-making processes that seemed to be functioning independently of conscious thought. If this story of redemption and hidden strength moved you, there are dozens more incredible tales waiting for you on this channel. Subscribe now, because the next video features an even more shocking revelation that will blow your mind completely. The successful extraction of all 3 confirmed prisoners should have completed the primary mission objectives, but intelligence gathered during the rescue operations revealed that the Jade Serpent's plans were more advanced than initially anticipated. The transfer of Project Nightfall information to international buyers was scheduled to occur within 12 hours, requiring immediate action to prevent irreversible security compromise. Madison's assault on the Jade Serpent's operational headquarters required coordination with extracted team members who were physically and psychologically capable of limited combat support. Torres, Wong, and Chen had been subjected to extended interrogation, but retained enough operational capability to assist with infiltration and data recovery operations. The final assault began at 0400 hours, utilizing the pre-dawn period when hostile personnel would be least alert and most vulnerable to coordinated special operations attack. Madison's enhanced capabilities allowed her to serve as point operator while directing supporting fires and tactical movement by her extracted team members. The combat operation was successful in neutralizing hostile personnel and securing Project Nightfall materials, but it also confirmed that Madison's enhanced performance modes were creating psychological effects that would require extended recovery periods. Her decision-making remained tactically sound, but her emotional connection to the operational environment was becoming increasingly detached. Extraction from Bangkok was accomplished through emergency protocols that involved Commander Brooks's unit conducting an unauthorized cross-border operation to provide helicopter evacuation from a secure landing zone outside the city. The operation violated multiple international agreements, but was justified by the successful prevention of classified information transfer. Madison's reunion with her father during the extraction operation was complicated by the psychological effects of extended enhanced capability usage. She recognized him and understood their relationship, but the emotional connection felt muted and distant, as if she was observing their interaction rather than participating in it. The flight to the forward operating base in northern Thailand provided time for preliminary medical evaluation and debriefing of mission results. All primary objectives had been accomplished: captured personnel rescued, hostile organization neutralized, and classified information secured, but the costs of mission success were becoming apparent. Madison's psychological evaluation revealed significant effects from enhanced capability usage that would require weeks or months of recovery time. Emotional detachment, sensory hypersensitivity, and decision-making processes that functioned independently of normal psychological patterns, all symptoms that had been theorized but never observed in operational environments. Commander Brooks's concern about his daughter's condition was evident despite his professional military bearing. The successful mission had demonstrated the potential of enhanced capabilities while revealing their dangerous psychological costs. The mission was successful, Madison reported during formal debriefing, her voice carrying the emotional detachment that concerned her father. All objectives achieved within acceptable operational parameters. "And your condition?" Commander Brooks asked. "Functional but altered. Enhanced capabilities provided mission success, but created psychological effects that will require extended recovery." Director Hayes arrived for final mission debriefing as medical evaluation concluded. Madison's condition was stable, but represented an unknown factor that would affect future operational assignments. Mission success has prevented irreversible compromise of classified information, Hayes reported. The Jade Serpent organization has been neutralized, captured personnel have been recovered, and Project Nightfall materials have been secured. Cost assessment? Commander Brooks asked. Acceptable losses relative to strategic importance of mission success. However, enhanced capability usage has created effects that require further study before future operational deployment. Madison understood that she was being discussed as much as debriefed. Her condition represented valuable research data about enhanced human performance capabilities, but it also raised questions about the ethical implications of utilizing such capabilities in operational environments. Recovery timeline? Madison asked. Unknown. You're the first operator to utilize enhanced capabilities at this level during actual operations. Recovery protocols are theoretical and will need to be developed based on your specific condition. The statement confirmed that Madison had been used as a test subject as much as an operational asset. Her mission success had demonstrated the potential of enhanced capabilities while providing data about their costs that couldn't be obtained through simulations or controlled testing. Future operational assignments? Suspended pending recovery assessment and development of protocols for managing enhanced capability effects. Madison accepted the decision without emotional reaction, though she recognized that her detached response was itself evidence of the psychological effects they were discussing. Her return to the United States occurred under medical supervision, with monitoring that combined operational security requirements with research objectives. The successful Bangkok mission had prevented a significant intelligence compromise, but it had also revealed capabilities and costs that would affect future special operations planning. Commander Brooks maintained close involvement in his daughter's recovery process, though their relationship was complicated by her emotional detachment and his own guilt about sending her on a mission that created such effects. Professional duty had required him to approve an operation that put his daughter at risk, but parental concern made him question whether mission success justified the personal costs. Madison's recovery occurred at a classified medical facility where specialists in both special operations psychology and experimental human performance worked to understand and treat the effects of enhanced capability usage. The process was slow and complicated by the fact that her condition represented uncharted territory in military medicine. Gradual improvement occurred over several weeks, with emotional connection slowly returning and sensory hypersensitivity decreasing to manageable levels. But Madison recognized that her experience with enhanced capabilities had fundamentally changed her relationship with normal human performance limitations. The final mission debriefing occurred 3 months after the Bangkok operation, when Madison had recovered sufficiently to provide detailed analysis of enhanced capability effects and their operational implications. Her report would influence future research and policy decisions about utilizing such capabilities in military operations. Enhanced capabilities provided decisive operational advantages, Madison reported. Mission success would have been impossible using conventional special operations techniques alone. And the costs? Director Hayes asked. Significant but manageable with appropriate recovery protocols. Future operations utilizing enhanced capabilities should include extended recovery periods and psychological support systems. Recommendations for future enhanced capability development? Madison considered the question carefully, balancing her operational experience with concern for other personnel who might face similar decisions. Enhanced capabilities represent valuable operational assets, but should be reserved for missions where conventional methods are insufficient. Personnel utilizing such capabilities require extensive preparation and recovery support that may limit their availability for sustained operations. Commander Brooks asked the question that addressed both professional and personal concerns. Would you accept future assignments requiring enhanced capability usage? Madison's response reflected both her professional commitment and her understanding of the personal costs involved. Mission requirements take priority over personal considerations. Enhanced capabilities are operational tools that should be utilized when necessary for mission success, regardless of personal costs to individual operators. Her father's expression suggested both pride in her professional dedication and concern about the psychological effects that allowed her to view personal sacrifice with such detachment. The Bangkok mission became a classified case study that influenced policy decisions about enhanced human performance research and operational deployment. Madison's successful completion of an impossible mission demonstrated the potential of such capabilities while revealing costs that required careful consideration. Her return to active duty occurred 6 months later, with assignments that balanced her unique capabilities with recognition of the recovery requirements associated with enhanced performance modes. She remained one of the military's most effective special operations personnel while serving as a living laboratory for understanding the possibilities and limitations of human performance enhancement. The relationship with her father continued to develop as both professional military connection and personal family bond, complicated by the shared understanding that duty might again require them to accept personal costs for mission success. Madison's operational career continued with the knowledge that she possessed capabilities beyond normal human limitations, but also with understanding that utilizing those capabilities came with prices that could fundamentally alter her connection to normal human experience. The Bangkok mission had saved lives, prevented intelligence compromise, and demonstrated the potential of enhanced human performance. But it had also revealed that the boundaries between human capability and something beyond human weren't crossed without permanent consequences. As Madison prepared for future assignments, she carried the knowledge that her enhanced capabilities would always be available when mission success required them. But she also understood that each use would distance her further from the normal human experience, creating isolation that even family connections might not be able to bridge. The price of becoming more than human was the risk of becoming less than human in ways that mattered more than operational capability. Her father's concern and support provided anchor points for maintaining her connection to normal human emotions and relationships. But Madison recognized that her enhanced capabilities created a path that led toward isolation, even from those who cared most about her well-being. The Bangkok mission had ended successfully, but it had also begun a journey toward capabilities and costs that couldn't be fully understood until they were experienced. Madison Brooks, daughter of Commander Nathan Brooks, enhanced capability operator and guardian of classified secrets that could affect national security for decades to come, continued her service with the knowledge that each mission might require her to pay prices that couldn't be calculated in advance. The two black triangles tattooed on her arm represented not just family lineage and Delta Force service, but also her acceptance of enhanced capabilities that placed her beyond normal human limitations while creating isolation that even family love might not be able to overcome. Her story continued, but each chapter would be written in the space between human capability and something beyond human understanding, where operational success came at costs that couldn't be measured in traditional terms. The Bangkok mission was complete, but Madison's journey into the implications of enhanced human performance was just beginning. The months following Madison's recovery marked a period of careful calibration. Station Blackwater had become her second home, with weekly evaluations that monitored both her psychological stability and the dormant enhanced capabilities that remained just beneath the surface of her consciousness. The researchers were fascinated by her case, the first successful deployment of theoretical enhanced performance in actual combat conditions. "Your neural pathways show permanent alterations," Dr. Sarah Chen explained during one of their sessions, displaying brain scan comparisons on her monitor. "The enhanced capabilities haven't disappeared. They have integrated into your baseline cognitive function." Madison studied the colorful brain imagery that represented her transformed neurological landscape. Areas that had previously shown normal activity now displayed patterns that the medical team described as optimized: enhanced pattern recognition, accelerated decision-making processes, and improved threat assessment capabilities that operated continuously rather than only during crisis situations. "Does this affect my operational status?" Madison asked. "Actually, it improves it. You're functioning at enhanced levels without the psychological costs we observe during acute activation phases. It's as if your brain has learned to operate the new capabilities efficiently." The assessment was both reassuring and concerning. Madison appreciated that she could access improved performance without the emotional detachment that had characterized her immediate post-mission state. But she also recognized that her enhanced baseline capabilities would make it increasingly difficult to relate to normal human experiences and limitations. Commander Brooks visited Station Blackwater regularly, ostensibly for operational consultations, but primarily to monitor his daughter's adaptation to her transformed capabilities. Their relationship had evolved beyond the professional military connection they had maintained before Bangkok, but it remained complicated by the intersection of parental concern and operational necessity. "How are you feeling about returning to active duty?" he asked during one of their conversations in the facility's secure garden area. Madison considered the question while watching late autumn leaves fall from carefully maintained oak trees. Different. I noticed things I didn't notice before: tactical possibilities, threat assessments, strategic implications that seem obvious now but would have required conscious analysis previously. Is that concerning? It's isolating, Madison admitted. Conversations with normal personnel feel slow. Their thought processes seem inefficient. I find myself finishing their tactical assessments before they have completed their initial observations. Commander Brooks nodded with understanding that suggested he had anticipated this development. Enhanced capabilities often create social isolation. Personnel with exceptional abilities frequently struggle to maintain normal relationships. Have you experienced this? To some degree. Command responsibilities require decision-making capabilities that exceed normal parameters. But your enhancements go beyond leadership skills. They represent fundamental alterations to human cognitive function. Madison appreciated his honesty about the challenges she was facing, but she also recognized that even her father's exceptional capabilities didn't fully bridge the gap between normal human function and her enhanced state. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Director Hayes, whose expression suggested developments that would affect Madison's immediate future. "We have a situation that requires your assessment," Hayes announced. "Intelligence has identified potential applications for enhanced capability personnel that weren't considered during initial research phases." Madison and Commander Brooks followed Hayes to a briefing room where classified displays showed global threat assessments and operational requirements that extended far beyond conventional special operations parameters. Enhanced capability personnel represent strategic assets with applications that could reshape national security operations, Hayes explained. Your successful Bangkok mission demonstrated capabilities that could be applied to challenges that conventional forces cannot address. The briefing materials revealed threat scenarios that seemed almost science-fictional: international criminal organizations with resources that rivaled nation-states, technological threats that exceeded current defensive capabilities, and strategic challenges that required solutions beyond normal human operational limits. "Are you recruiting me for experimental operations?" Madison asked. "We're offering you opportunities to utilize your capabilities for challenges that matter on global scales," Hayes replied diplomatically. "Operations that could prevent international conflicts, neutralize threats to civilian populations, and protect national interests in ways that conventional forces cannot accomplish." Madison studied the threat assessments while considering the implications of accepting assignments that would further distance her from normal human experience. Enhanced capabilities created possibilities for extraordinary service, but they also represented a path toward permanent isolation from the normal world. "What does this mean for my personal life?" she asked. Enhanced capability personnel typically find that normal personal relationships become increasingly difficult to maintain, Hayes acknowledged. "Your cognitive function operates at levels that make casual social interaction challenging. Long-term relationships require partners who can adapt to your enhanced capabilities or who possess similar enhancements themselves." The statement confirmed Madison's growing awareness that her enhanced state was creating permanent changes to her life possibilities. Normal romantic relationships, friendships, and even family connections would be affected by cognitive capabilities that exceeded normal human parameters. Commander Brooks addressed the personal implications with the concerned tone of a father rather than a military superior. "Madison, you have choices about how extensively you utilize enhanced capabilities. Accepting assignments that require maximum enhancement will accelerate the isolation process. And if I refuse advanced assignments, you'll be assigned to conventional special operations that utilize your enhanced baseline capabilities without requiring acute activation phases. Your service would remain valuable, but you wouldn't be pushing the boundaries of human performance." Madison understood the choice being presented. She could maintain a relatively normal life by limiting her enhanced capability usage, or she could accept assignments that would maximize her potential impact while accelerating her separation from normal human experience. "What happens to other enhanced capability personnel?" Director Hayes consulted classified files before responding. "You're currently the only operator with confirmed enhanced capabilities integrated at baseline levels. Other research subjects have shown promise, but none have achieved your level of successful capability integration." The revelation that she was unique among enhanced capability research added weight to her decision. Her choices would establish precedents for future enhanced personnel and determine whether the research program continued or was abandoned due to unacceptable personal costs. Timeline for decision: 2 weeks. International threat assessments suggest opportunities for enhanced capability deployment that could prevent significant civilian casualties if addressed within the next month. Madison spent the following 2 weeks in intensive consultation with psychologists, operational specialists, and her father as she considered the implications of accepting or declining advanced enhanced capability assignments. The decision would shape not just her personal future, but the direction of research that could affect military operations for decades. Her final conversation with Commander Brooks took place in the same garden where they had discussed her adaptation challenges. "Whatever you decide, I'm proud of the service you've provided and the person you've become," he said. "Enhanced capabilities haven't changed the fundamental values that make you an exceptional operator and daughter." Madison appreciated his support, but she also recognized that his parental concern might be influencing his advice toward choices that prioritized her personal well-being over maximum service utilization. "If I accept advanced assignments, how do we maintain our relationship?" "Carefully and with understanding that your enhanced capabilities will continue evolving. I'll adapt to changes in your cognitive function, and you'll need to be patient with my normal human limitations." The promise of continued family connection provided emotional anchor that made the isolation risks more manageable. Madison realized that maintaining relationships with understanding family members might be essential for preserving her connection to normal human values even as her capabilities exceeded normal human limits. Her decision was informed by recognition that enhanced capabilities represented both opportunity and responsibility. The threats described in intelligence assessments were real and could affect millions of civilian lives. Her unique abilities created obligations to utilize them for maximum benefit, even if personal costs were significant. "I'll accept advanced assignments," Madison informed Director Hayes. "Enhanced capabilities should be utilized for maximum strategic benefit, regardless of personal implications for individual operators." Hayes received her decision with expressions that mixed satisfaction with concern. "Excellent. Your first advanced assignment will begin next month. Threat assessment suggests requirements that will test your enhanced capabilities at levels beyond anything we've previously attempted." Madison accepted the assignment with full understanding that each advanced mission would distance her further from normal human experience. But she also recognized that her enhanced capabilities created possibilities for service that could prevent suffering on scales that justified personal sacrifice. Her preparation for advanced enhanced capability operations included psychological conditioning designed to help her maintain emotional connections despite increasing cognitive isolation. Techniques for preserving empathy, maintaining family relationships, and remembering human values that might become abstract concepts as her capabilities continued evolving. Commander Brooks remained involved in her preparation as both father and military advisor, helping her develop strategies for balancing enhanced capability utilization with preservation of personal humanity. Their relationship would serve as a test case for whether enhanced personnel could maintain meaningful family connections despite fundamental alterations to their cognitive function. Madison's enhanced capabilities had already begun opening doors to operational possibilities that exceeded conventional human limits. Her future assignments would explore the boundaries of human potential, while testing whether enhanced performance could be achieved without losing essential human qualities that made such service worthwhile. The journey from the Fort Bragg training exercise to enhanced capability operator had revealed abilities she hadn't known she possessed, while creating challenges she couldn't have anticipated. Her enhanced capabilities represented both evolution and risk, the possibility of becoming more than human while preserving the humanity that gave meaning to exceptional service. As Madison prepared for her next mission, she carried the knowledge that her enhanced capabilities would continue evolving with each assignment, but she also maintained commitment to the values that had motivated her service since childhood: protection of innocent life, defense of democratic principles, and loyalty to family connections that provided anchor points for preserving her humanity, even as her capabilities transcended normal human limitations. The 2 black triangles tattooed on her arm now represented not just family military heritage, but also her acceptance of enhanced capabilities that placed her at the forefront of human potential exploration. Her story continued into territory that previous generations of warriors couldn't have imagined, where individual capability could affect international events and personal sacrifice could prevent global suffering. Madison Brooks, enhanced capability operator, daughter, and guardian of possibilities that exceeded normal human understanding, prepared for missions that would test the limits of human potential while challenging her ability to remain fundamentally human in ways that mattered beyond operational capability. Her enhanced journey was just beginning, but each step would be taken with determination to utilize extraordinary capabilities for protecting a world that might never understand the sacrifices required to keep it safe.
Behind every uniform is a person trying their best. See each other with respect. Thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe to TNG Story.